Hello, Meow Meows. Thank you for your time today.
We have many things to discuss in our third series, Self.
Discovering ourself through love and understanding.
Uncovering what gets in the way.
What are the love languages we value and how we communicate them?
Falling in love and getting married to you.
Finding a giggle in yourself today.
Creating a reality with passion and purpose.
Alrighty, Meow Meows, let's get connected with ourself.
How are you, Kat?
I'm great.
Good.
I'm great, girl.
How has your morning been?
As we both know, we cried.
Yeah, we both cried.
We both cried, so not an unusual morning. Yeah, sometimes there are technical difficulties. Sometimes there are physical difficulties, and sometimes you don't always feel like doing it. But we said we were going to do it, so here we are.
Yeah.
And I really love us for that. Big sigh.
Big time. So, series 3, we are still on Self. So that's so beautiful.
I love self.
Me too. We are on episode 2, the human brain and self-hatred, which is so interesting to get on into, Miss Cat.
Yes. Definitely was looking forward to this episode because I think we have both seen so many examples of self-hatred, and it can look like so many different things. And really, I'm so curious, like, why do we hate ourselves? And, the questions of the inner dialogues of I'm not good enough, or I'm not pretty enough, the I'm not enoughness, the I can'ts, the I couldn'ts, the comparisons, the self-judgments, the criticisms, and the scrutiny that we put ourselves under. Why do we hate ourselves?
But do we? Do we actually hate ourselves?
So I think it's interesting. We were having this discussion of going back to our first episode of Self.
Yep.
And you, Kyla, who you truly are a divine and sovereign, magnificent soul. So you, who you truly are, not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your experiences, not your circumstances, not your story, that's not you. So you, who you truly are, your higher self, if you will, could you actually hate that? And I mean, does that you actually hate you? Where does the self-hatred actually come from?
But maybe you do actually, or maybe you do really hate yourself, but where does the hate come from, or where is it hating on?
Yeah.
I don't really know. And I mean, maybe you really don't hate yourself. Maybe you are highly dissatisfied with certain elements of yourself or certain elements of your life based on who you think you should be or who others think you should be. But do you really hate yourself?
That's such a good question.
I mean, you can feel very disappointed in yourself. I'll testify. I have been extremely disappointed in myself, but I dare not say that I hate myself.
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed in myself. I'm very upset with myself. I'm very angry with myself, but I don't hate her.
Well, and I mean, I think you said this recently, but if you're disappointed with yourself, rather than hating yourself for feeling disappointed, just fucking feel disappointed.
Let yourself feel the disappointment rather than I'm disappointed and I hate myself.
Yeah,
because you're just adding more shit to the emotion.
You're adding way more shit. And I was at the bar last night with my friend Ginger, and we were talking about this episode. Yeah, and I was like, instead of hating yourself, just feel disappointed. And she was like, oh no. Like, I would rather someone hate me than someone be disappointed in me, like, any day.
But what about yourself, though? That's the question.
Of course.
Should you be more disappointed in yourself, or should you hate yourself?
Well, and then I brought up the episode we did on fear and shame, and I was like, so rather than feeling that guilt, in the avoidance of feeling that guilt from disappointing yourself or from disappointing others, you take shame and you embody that guilt into your identity and you say, I couldn't have done better. I can't do better and I won't do better. And it essentially like lets you off the hook for self-improvement. That's why I think we hate ourselves rather than allowing a disappointment in ourselves, if that makes sense.
Because it'd be more work.
It'd be way more work. It'd be way more work. And I think it's easier for your brain.
Yeah.
I think it's easier for your brain to be like, no, here is the network of neurons that we've already fired and wired together so many times. It makes more sense to me, brain, to just let this narrative play out. Go ahead and hate yourself because that's just easier for me, rather than your brain trying to find a new network of neurons to say, no, maybe we don't hate ourselves. Maybe you're doing the best you can. Yeah, your brain's not trying to look out for your best interest.
It's trying to be in survival mode because that's what your brain is doing, is protecting you.
It is. So I think boiling back down to the question of, so let's say you hate yourself.
Yeah.
And I think there's two different ways to look at it. There's the subconscious way of, the thoughts don't maybe actually surface, but underneath everything is this blanket narrative of I'm not good enough.
Yep.
Or I could be better.
Or I will never be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And these little thoughts add up. They absolutely add up. But then I think there's an alternative self-hatred that is like, it's like all of your narrative is based upon this language of self-hatred, and you might not even be totally aware of it. Things like, oh my God, I'm so stupid, I hate myself. Or, oh my God, I cannot believe I fucked that up, I hate myself.
Right, and it's so simple because it just falls out.
It just falls right out of you. I knew a girl who said, oh my God, I just fucking hate that, I'm gonna kill myself. All of the time. She'd probably say that like 15 times a day on the days that I spent with her. And that was just the time I was around her. And I was like, dude, you do not go unscathed from language like that. Mm-mm. Like that seeps in to
your subconscious.
Yeah. Into the way you look at yourself. So so I think bringing up the question, like, do you actually hate yourself? If you are a divine soul, with a higher consciousness, beautifully worthy and blessed to be on this earth, do you hate that? Do you really hate you? Or are there things about you that you are dissatisfied with? And I think just starting with that question, and then let's ask the question, what do we hate about ourselves? Mm-hmm. What do you really hate about yourself?
But when did that start? When did the hating any part about yourself start? Where did the root cause come from? Because then you'll be able to find all the trickling emotions that came years after.
Right. And I think it's interesting because I think we quote unquote hate ourselves before we realize why, or before we even realize, oh, fuck, it's bad. It's really, really bad. So unfortunately, I have to share the experience of being in a really dark place with this. I now in the future am able to see that all of my self-hatred came from a fear of unworthiness and this not enoughness, as you so call it. But I was just horrified with the way I looked. And I didn't have anything else to base my worthiness off of. Like, I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't good at school. I didn't have a lot of like talents I was pursuing.
Wait.
Yeah.
How old were you?
When I first realized it?
Mm-hmm. Like this stuff. Like what was your age range? Like, or school age range?
I remember being in 7th grade, the first moment that I felt self-conscious about my body.
Okay.
And I had feelings of, like insecurities before then, and it was really related to like the ADHD, and I was just a hyperactive kid. Mm-hmm. So I always felt like I was too much, and I did have a lot of embarrassment around that, of just being like, Kat, stop, like stop. And So, I think it all kind of plays into each other, but more than anything, I accepted the belief that your looks matter and your looks matter more than anything.
Ouch.
Yeah, I know. And, you guys, anyone who grew up in the 90s, anyone who was born in the 90s and probably earlier than that, we faced it and we ate up that dialogue. And now people who, were maybe born in the early 2000s, they still have kind of that ongoing dialogue.
But there's other ways of thinking that are brought up.
Yes, exactly. Like now we do have queens in the media who are like, no, I'm fat and I love myself.
Yeah.
I'm fat and I love myself, as you should. Like, not loving yourself isn't going to change your weight whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
So anyway, however, I think in the early 2000s when we were in middle school and, getting into high school, elementary school, middle school, high school, whatever, it was really bad because we didn't have those other narratives that were saying, hey, you are okay no matter what size you are.
Social media was kind of just starting to, we were the beginning of it.
We were the beginning of it. And I mean, I'm really happy that we weren't subjected to that throughout middle school and elementary school because I don't know how much worse it could have been.
I probably would have killed myself.
Yeah. I might have as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is, I mean, the hardest part about going back to that reality of mine is that I really had to look in the mirror one day and be like, Kat, is this worth killing yourself over? Because you are killing yourself every single day with every single one of these thoughts. And if you can't get over this, like really, if your life isn't worth living because you're not taller or skinnier or prettier, then we have to actually have the conversation about suicide.
Yeah.
And I just like, I brought that up super objectively to myself. And then of course myself is devastated because I'm like, I don't want to die. Like, I don't want to kill myself. And it's like, good, don't. Like, don't. Stop this madness.
Yep.
But just bringing that objective reality to it of like, is this worth killing yourself over, girl? Because then you need to stop.
Right.
Yes. And I know you had an experience totally on the flip side of that.
Oh, yeah. Completely different. So, which is so funny because middle school, we fucking love it.
It's the worst.
It is the worst. I wish we could just skip over it. But those are our prime years and prime time to learn. So I grew up, I knew I was beautiful, but I didn't accentuate it. I wasn't better than anyone else because I don't want to be better than anybody else because I'm just me and I want you to be you. But I was bullied to the point I literally didn't want to go to school. I literally did not want to live. I did not want to be alive. I didn't want to see these people. The girls, middle school girls especially, they get very jealous. And so I was bullied for being pretty. These girls were jealous of me being pretty and that I had parents that cared and loved me. And then the boys would give me the attention of they wanted me or, oh yeah, we did stuff. But then the girls would hate me even more because all of the boys are giving me the attention. These girls were relentless. I was somehow the whore of the school, but had only kissed my first boyfriend and we were nowhere near close to having sex. And I didn't want to be pretty. I didn't want the attention. I had a beautiful friend that stuck up for me and then she started getting bullied for being my friend and I stopped. I told her I can't be friends with you because of how they're treating you. I stopped being her friend because we still like connect sometimes, but I'm like, thank you for sticking up for me, but I can't see you go through this.
All of the negative attention from all of the sides.
It was, and there was no winning, and I wasn't trying to do anything, but I was just like,
helplessness.
It was. I felt so stuck. I couldn't go anywhere, and these girls, they would never stop, and then the guys would say, oh yeah, we did stuff, but so that didn't help, and I didn't do anything.
I know. You didn't do anything.
I didn't do anything. These girls literally follow me around and yell at me, or they would write all over my locker, you fucking whore, or all over the bathroom mirrors, and Kyla's a whore, Kyla's a slut. Don't vote for her friend because she's friends with Kyla.
Wow.
Like, literally. I'm like, dude. And I try to block out most of it, so I can't even remember half of it.
Yeah.
But it was a time where I wish I wasn't alive. A time that I hated myself for being pretty, which fucking sucked.
Well, and God, what's so embarrassing and hard for me to like say is that I would have been on the opposite end of that. And yeah, I would have bullied you for being pretty. And I would have bullied you out of my own insecurities and my jealousy, because I did bully people.
And I remember the first time I told you that, and you got like defensive. You're like, how dare you? How dare you think that? And you're like, oh wait, never mind.
Oh, like when I said, how dare you be upset that you were pretty?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and I didn't mean for it to come across that way at all, but I was just like, oh, Kyla doesn't want to be pretty. Too bad for her. Like, it's super fucking invalidating, guys. Super bad. But no, I didn't realize. I had no, I mean, like, I did have an idea. My perception hadn't gone there yet.
Yeah, you had never been in that perspective before.
Right. And maybe I was too caught up with feeling bad for my old self that I forgot that, no, there's some pain that you caused and you have to go back and deal with that, cat. And yeah, I'm just like, dude, behind any bully, behind any judgment is a self-judgment, is a self-bully.
And even worse.
Yep. Hate that is transmitted. I mean, like, sorry, hate that is not transformed is transmitted.
Yes. So anything that you are expressing towards another person is how you feel about yourself, or even worse.
Yeah. It's not good.
No.
And I think what's so interesting is that both of us, driven to depression, to self-hatred and absolute despair based off our looks and what we wanted to change about them. Fuck. Anyway, so I look back at this time, and maybe this would have helped you tremendously as well, but I'm just like, if someone had taught me why my brain defaults to self-hatred, life would have been so much fucking easier.
But we would not have been ready to receive that at that age.
I really would have.
You would have?
Like if there was a class in middle school,
Yeah.
personal development, there needs to be a class, elementary school through high school, for personal development.
But you remember middle school.
I do remember middle school, but
Most
still,
students would think of that class as a joke.
And I'm just like, I don't care. I would have gotten so much out of it. And well, because my first class introducing me to these concepts was Power of the Media. Okay. Mr. Wilkinson, Cedar Falls High School, the best teacher I've ever had. She taught me so much about the world. But I mean, like, I couldn't get enough of it. I was like, what do you mean there's power behind the media? And I think I would have enjoyed that from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's the reason we're bringing this up today. Because if you have not taken a second to look at your primitive brain and how it is it's working against the betterment of you for the sake of your survival. It's trying to do right by you because it's trying to keep you alive, but that's its only intention, and its only function. So realizing essentially, like, let's take a second to look at what our primal brain actually looks like.
Yeah.
Forget for a second that you are experiencing a reality, that you are sitting across from a podcast stand with your best friend.
Hi.
And that you're existing in this moment. And just look at the functions, the mechanics of your brain. And it's like, what functions is it executing? What pathways is it reinforcing? What are the priorities for this organ that you call your brain? Nothing is real. Everything is your brain's best interpretation of reality.
So how is your brain protecting you?
I feel like in the way that it's trying to keep you alive, not happy.
Right.
It's trying to make sure that you're not separated from the group. It's trying to make sure that you have the best possible chance for survival.
So how is it affecting you, though?
I mean, I'm almost always negatively.
Yeah.
Which I think, because we don't talk about this and because we don't teach kids how to start putting new pathways and new neurological patterns in place.
Because most adults don't even know how to.
Of course. And I mean, once you get past 30, your brain is like no, we've actually solidified these pathways so deeply that we have no reason to change them. And just to bring some clarity to it, if you don't know what neurological pathways are, your brain is all neurons. And so like in prefrontal cortex, occipital lobes, like, your basal ganglia, like all of these things just have a shit ton of neurons. And neurons from my prefrontal cortex might be connected to my basal ganglia, where I'm just like, oh, I see that. I'm triggered by that. I'm all upset. And my thoughts start racing of like, oh, we remember when this thing happened. We fucking hated that. So anyway, your brain creates these patterns, and neurons that fire together wire together. And so when you don't stop these pathways and say, wait a second, I'm gonna introduce a new pathway, then your brain's just like, this is a lot easier for me, and we don't really give a fuck if you're happy or not. We're just trying to do what's easiest for us. So Thank you.
So how does our brain relate to ourself and who we are?
I think just recognizing that it's not who you are. Like, you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings. Like, your brain is a part of your body. It's like literally just a necessary part of being human. It's here to keep you alive, but why would you consider an organ to be you? Like, you don't think that you're your heart, you don't think that you're your gut, you don't think that you're your liver or your feet or your hands. So why do you think that you're your brain? Why do you think that you exist up here?
You definitely do not.
You definitely do not. And so, in summary of this very nice, sweet little episode, you don't have to hate yourself. There is no reason you need to believe the thoughts of self-hatred. That's it. Period. End of sentence. Like, you don't have to believe that you have to hate yourself in order to keep you alive.
No, you do not have to consistently just survive, because that's exhausting and that's not living.
It is exhausting. Could you even imagine a reality where your brain isn't defaulting to self-hatred anymore? Could you imagine a reality where you've set up the pathways to support you rather than to break you down?
Could be.
Wouldn't that be a bitch?
I wonder what that looks like.
And I think that's what we're talking about next week.
Ooh, part 2.
Part 2, affirm a new reality. So, meow meows, we will see you next week to dive into, okay, how do we actually begin to create a better reality for ourselves?
If you want, of course.
If you want. It is your choice.
All right. Well, Miss Cat, I love you, as always. I'll see you next week.
I think you will.
Bye, meow meow.
Bye.
Alrighty, you lovely meows. We love you deeply, and we thank you dearly for joining us in our journey today.
Subscribe to the 6 a.m. Meow Meows to get notifications for future episodes. If you wish for more meows in your life, you can connect with us on Instagram for questions to ask yourself, writing prompts, as well as tips and tricks related to today's episode. And, of course, cats.
If you're more of a visual person, find us on YouTube for the video version of these podcasts. Or you can join the conversation on Facebook. Share what you think, what you learned, or something you would like to add to our discussions.
To get in touch with us, or if you have any questions, email us at the6ammeowmeows@gmail.com.
And all of these links will be listed below, so just scroll on down to get connected.
As always, we are learning through this journey, so your comments and perspectives are a fundamental part in helping us gain understanding and shifting our current realities.
Again, thank you for your time, and have a perfect rest of your day. Goodbye, beautiful meow meows.
Goodbye!